And take care.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and call to order the Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors meeting. Roll call, please.
Director Spardonish,
Here.
Gardini,
Here.
Logan,
Here.
Pearson,
Here.
and Peterson.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Get up.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please, thank you. Order of business, any board members, does any board member would like to change the, order of business? Special reports, so, I know we have the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's, Commander Manuel here. Thank you for coming.
Glad I could be here. Good evening, Michael Manueli, Commander, Sheriff's North Station. I have your report for March 2024. The station generated 1,496 calls for service. Compared to last year, we had 1,505. That's a drop of about 1%. Those calls for service, breaking them down, Templeton accounted for 289 compared to last year, 343, a 16% drop. For comparison, San Miguel had 173 calls for service. From those calls for service, the station generated 314 reports. Compared to last year, 195. That's a 61% increase. I saw that across the board. I had to stop and rerun my numbers to figure out what's going on. And I don't have an answer for you. I don't know why. Templeton, 125 compared to 51 last year, 145% increase in calls or reports generated from those calls for service. San Miguel experienced something very similar. They had 37 this year, 13 last year, 185% increase. Breaking those calls for service down into specific areas, looking at assault and battery, there were 2 calls for service. They both generated a report. The first incident involved a subject suffering a mental health crisis incident, and the second incident was domestic violence related. Disturbance calls, 20 disturbance calls generating 1 report. That call involved the subject checking themselves into the hospital, getting treatment, and then refusing to leave. We assisted there. There were 3 burglary calls for service. There were no reports generated. One of the calls was out of Atascadero City and referred to that jurisdiction. The other 2 calls were suspicious subject type calls, and they were not. They were unfounded. Theft reports, we had 3 calls for service generating 2 reports. We had propane tanks and other miscellaneous equipments that was taken from a shed, and then we had a gas cap stolen off a vehicle. I don't know if it's related or not, but as gas prices go up, people like to steal fuel instead of paying for it. So that may be related. No vandalism reports. No calls for service for vandalism. Trespassing, we had 2 calls for service. No reports were generated. A caller who was home alone reported a male subject on the front door, ringing the doorbell for 20 minutes. And then the subject left. We were unable to locate that subject. In another call for service, a report of a familiar, somebody they knew, intoxicated subject, refusing the location. 2 phone scams, 0 reports. We did have 1 victim that received a call from a subject purporting to be an Amazon employee. That subject had the victim's social security number. This gave the victim confidence that they were talking to somebody from Amazon. They gave up a bunch more personal information and $3,500 in gift cards. That money is lost. So again, call them back. You get a call, suspicious circumstances, someone asking for information. Say, okay, I'll call you at the number on the back of my card. I'll call you at the number at the website, but I'm not going to give you information. Last thing we have were suspicious circumstances generating 12 calls for service. and 3 reports. Got a report of a subject wearing what the caller described as a postal uniform and smelling the marijuana at the back of the business, asking for some kind of equipment to help move equipment. Gone when we arrived, they asked him to leave and that subject left. So rather interesting. And that is my report for this month.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
I think you've answered this before, but what's the definition of a report?
A report is something where we draw a case number and do actual documentation. So we get these calls for service, we go out there, evaluate them, and if it's worthy of a crime report, we'll draw a case number. If it's worthy of documentation, we think it's gonna be something that continues in the future, we'll draw a case number. Or if it's something that's gonna continue and we need to build case, we'll draw case numbers. So in this particular case, let's look at that phone scam. The caller did not want to report, and there's a federal website that you can report these kind of scams to. So she was directed to that type of resource. So we did not do any documentation investigation here at our level.
So a service call doesn't necessarily,
No,
you can have a report without a service call.
absolutely. And in fact, that's the case with most of ours. So for Templeton, we had 289 calls for service, but only 125 of those generated reports. So, yeah. And it fluctuates on the type of call as well. So your theft calls, burglary calls, and domestic violence and such, assaults, those will have a higher percentage of reports, where your suspicious circumstances very seldom generate a report because they're usually gone. We're usually to resolve the suspicious circumstances, or it turns out to be not criminal activity.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions? No?
I
Any
like the questions.
Any questions from the public? No. Great, well, thank you for coming.
Oh, look.
All right, next we have the California Highway Patrol, Lieutenant Stewart.
Still on the phone, I'm taking all kinds of messages, sorry for being a couple minutes late.
No problem, thanks for coming.
Glad to be here, Chandler Stewart, Commander of Templeton CHP. This is our report for the first quarter in essence, so this will be January to March in and around the Templeton area this year over last year, and then some context for activity for the same period throughout our area. Total crashes investigated, 41, 19 on the freeway, 22 on county roads. That's down 3 from the same period last year. Of those, 25 were property damage only collisions. That's down from 32, a 28% decrease. That's where the bulk of the decrease was realized. 14 collisions involving injury, 5 on the freeway, 9 on county roads, up from 12 same period the prior year. And 4 of these involved DUI driving, 3 on the freeway, 1 on county roads, up 1 from the prior year. There were sadly 2 fatal collisions in the period in and around the Templeton area, not immediately in Templeton, one that we've discussed before on the 101 towards the Atascadero, Del Rio area. And the other that occurred just recently on Creston Road near the pools, east of town. Both of these involved a DUI driver whose driving led to the ejection of passengers who died as a result of their injuries. And one of those we're at this point expecting to be charged as a murder. To give you some additional context on that, there were 26 collisions throughout our area involving DUI collisions, up 3 from the prior year. And that's 1 more fatality than we had at this point last year. So we're hoping to continue the push to press down on the fatal numbers and DUI. We appreciate you all driving without being impaired or distracted. There were 460 enforcement contacts in and around the Templeton area, up from 380 the prior year, a 17% increase. 265 citations were issued, 245 on the freeway, 20 on county roads. That's up 23% from the prior year. Throughout the jurisdiction, there were 2,239 citations issued, up from 1,900 the prior year. Of the citations, 76 are in and around Templeton were issued for speed in excess of the posted speed limit, 71 on the freeway, 5 on county roads. That's up from 68 the prior year. And there were 2 citations issued up on the freeway for speed in excess of 100 miles an hour. That is down 1 from the prior year. There were 40 citations across our jurisdiction for speed in excess of 100 miles an hour. That is down 1 from the prior year. And there were 9 arrests for DUI in and around the Templeton area, 5 on freeway, 4 on county roads. That total of 9 is up 2 from the prior year, an increase of 22%. And there were 71 DUI arrests throughout our jurisdiction, which is off slightly from that last year, but an increase happened here around the Templeton area. We also provided 549 services throughout our jurisdiction for the period. And that's our report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, any questions from the public? Oh,
I'd like to say that Commander Stewart and I, we make fun of each other. It's because we have such a strong working relationship. I have worked in all areas of the county with the CHP from each of those jurisdictions. And I have never had such a strong working relationship with the CHP. Someone who is involved in the community and cares about the community and attends these meetings. If I have a problem, I can simply call him or email him. So I greatly appreciate Commander Stewart's working up here with us. He's a huge benefit to the community and to law enforcement.
Vice versa, and we feel the same way. Commander Manuel is phenomenal. It goes 2 ways. At a moment's notice, I can make a call to Mike and things get fixed. I honestly thought you were about ready to nail me with something when you started with you. You give each other a hard time. I thought, oh no, here it comes. But no, Mike is phenomenal, and I think it's just we just try it for our people. This office does not. This little area office right here doesn't usually get longer stay commanders, and then I've been here a while, so I think that helps for sure. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, sir.
well, thank you, thanks.
And if I can just compliment both commanders on the professionalism of their staff last week on the every 15 minutes that took place at Templeton High School. That was an incredible event, and I think it had a real impact for our high school students. So thank you both, and thank you to your staff.
Yeah, we'll never know the lives that we save, but we do count lives saved.
Great. Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Public comment. Members of the public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda. In compliance with the Brown Act, the board cannot discuss or act on the items not on the agenda. Any public comments? Yes.
Would that be when
We have it on the consent agenda. We'll pull it and then so you could speak.
so it's not my turn?
No, not yet. This is regarding the community center range, right?
Oh.
Or is it something different? Yeah, okay, regarding that. All right, so there's no comments. We'll move on to the consent agendas. We have several items on there. One, it's the minutes from the March 5th, 2024, the treasurer's report, which is for January 2024. The budget amendment, community center range. We are supposed to consider approving a budget amendment in the amount of $4,300 for the purchase of a replacement range for the community center. We have, the next item is the budget amendment, gopher control system, which is in the amount of $10,566. So we will consider approving a budget amendment for this gopher control system to be utilized at our parks. We have the CSDA letter of support, HR 7525, which is Special District Grant Accessibility Act. Do any of the board members would like to hold the agenda, any items?
I have a correction on the minutes.
Okay. Okay, and then I'll go ahead, and then I'll pull the item for the community center range. So items A and B are A and C are pulled. Do I have a motion to approve item? Does public need to pull any items, any comments on any items? So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for item 7B, treasurer's report, the Gopher Control System and the CSDA letter of support. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve item B, the treasurer's report, item D, the budget amendment Gopher Control System, and item E, CSDA letter of support, HR 7525.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Great. All right, roll call, please.
Excuse me, Directors Pearson,
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Giardini,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Fardonish.
For the minutes.
I just have a correction to, on page 2 of the minutes at the very bottom. So it says Director Jardine added section 2222221.150. It's just the, it's just the 2221.150. Just 2 twos in there. And the other thing is I would like to add that the ABA bill is regarding accessory dwelling units. So when somebody reads these, they know what that bill is regarding. So if it could say with recent changes of ABA 222.22221 accessory dwelling unit assembly bill, and then the correction on the next one so that people know what it's about.
Okay. Okay, all right, so,
Sure, I'll make a motion then to approve item A of the consent agenda with my corrections as noted.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Directors Giardini,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
and Fardonish.
The next item is the budget amendment, is the community center range, for the amount of $4,300. I pulled that item. I just have a couple of questions regarding that. Did you wanna just give a quick history on that?
Sure, if it's helpful, and I believe we have somebody who would like to make a couple comments on it. So the range of the community center, is original to the building, so, about 28 years old. It's had a couple of gas, related problems several years ago, maybe 4 or 5. One of the burners had a gas leak and that was unrepairable, the parts were not available, and so we just took that particular burner, the stovetop burner, out of service, and the remaining burners still worked. But some time ago, probably about 2 years ago, there was another gas leak in a manifold that serves the entire appliance. And it was leaking gas into the kitchen. And so we turned it off, turned the gas line to the range off, and trying to locate appliance repair personnel or staff to repair it through appliance repair companies. And most were unable to. We found one that said they could came out here, identify the part. And so we ordered the part through that company, and we're told for many months that it was on back order, and we were never able to secure the part. We tried to go through other sources to obtain the same part. Don't believe it's available anymore. And the company that we were working with is not communicating back with us. I think it's just not going to be repairable. So in the meantime, the range has been out of service. That's affected some of the groups that use the community center. We brought this item to the Parks, Recreation, and Refuse Committee about a month ago, and discussed with the committee options. Options, included, just eliminating the range, putting in a more of a standard a residential style range, which would leave a gap in the cabinetry, or repair or purchasing a new 48-inch. It's a pretty large unit range, and the committee requested that staff get multiple bids and compare those bids and bring those items before the board for a decision to replace the range. And that's what's before you now. Just keep in mind what we have there now is a really high-end unit. It's a Viking range. Its replacement would be about 10 grand, maybe a little bit more, to buy something that's really comparable. Carrie was able to locate or find some ranges that would fit, that would look appropriate, but are not as high end. And the lowest cost one that we were able to find that fits that space is a Thor unit from Lowe's, and that's what's recommended.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so one of the questions I have was that my understanding is that currently there was two groups that were using the range, but now I know they have, one of the groups is no longer using it right now because obviously they need a range, so they're going somewhere else. So so we only have one group that's using this range. I'm just trying to understand, do we need another commercial range? Or can we, and I understand, you know, I realize you say that there's gonna be a gap, so if we get a 30-inch range, so that there's gonna be versus 48, so you're gonna have 9-inch gaps on either side. I mean, you could either leave the gap or try to cover it up, and I think that would save thousands of dollars. It could be probably a third of the cost, so, and I'm not quite sure what the range use is going to be. I mean, I don't think you need a commercial.
Yeah, I agree that the uses, I don't know how often, so the commercial range is like 2 separate oven spaces.
Yeah.
I don't know how often that's used. When this item was discussed by the Parks, Recreation and Refuse Committee, we did talk about options, and one of the options was we could get a lower cost range, like a residential range to go in there. But a lot of that cost savings would be eaten up by trying to repair or fix the cabinetry, to make it look like it fit. Otherwise, it's just gonna be an open space again, about 18 inches.
Well, 9
So-
inches on each side.
Yeah, or if it was shifted to one side, an
Yeah,
18-inch
yeah.
space. So that's why the committee, for, you know, actually we have a couple of members here who are on that committee, requested that we bring forward a range that fits the space.
Yeah, I mean, I know the needs have changed of that facility, and I realize, you know, there used to be a commercial range there, but I just don't know if it's necessary to have that, and I think we could get a really nice residential range, and I realize it's gonna be smaller. I mean, it's gonna be smaller, but it's gonna be a lot less expensive, and hopefully it will meet the needs of people that are using it. Another concern I have with getting a commercial range is that obviously that area, that center, you know, the community center gets rented out, so you never know who's gonna be in there using it. And they may not, you know, use it properly and cause damage. I mean, if this was something that it was for our own staff or somebody trained that will be using it regularly, then I could understand that, but for a unit that's going to be the community center and maybe being used once or twice, I just think is maybe a little bit too much money.
Yeah, actually, I was pretty surprised we were able to find something at this cost, and, you know, this low of a cost, given the, you know, when the problem first surfaced, I went, okay, what's a Viking commercial range, and they're all 10, 12 grand. So I was like, wow, that's a big expense, given how little the oven gets used, or the range gets used. However, one of the reasons we selected or recommended this, and the other ones, they're really more simple. They don't have a lot of fancy features, because we thought that like all the programmable features and stuff are not likely to be used, or because of the groups, again, that come use it maybe once, or we have some groups that use it once a month, but then it's not like at a restaurant or at home where you have the same people using it every day. So the range that's recommended is actually quite simple, it has the least amount of fancy features, I guess, maybe, but still bakes and heats. You know.
Okay. Any other? Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
So I agree with your findings that this is so low in cost, because at that a 48-inch range, it's like, it can't be $4,300. So I actually did some online shopping myself, and sure enough, yes, there is a Thor at I think Lowe's. But you know, I understand wanting to put a smaller one in, maybe cheaper. The one benefit, and obviously you don't cook, the one benefit of a larger range is that. Yeah.
Don't mess with my grill.
Well, with having a larger range, the benefit is that if we've got a community center and we've got a large group that wants to host a large party with warm food, you can do that with a 48-inch. And it's also gonna have a larger capacity oven than a regular residential oven. And that's the benefit. So I think if we go with, you know, a smaller 30-inch, what we could be doing is causing people who want to use the facility in the future and rent it for a luncheon or some other event where warm food is being served, it could be a deterrent. So, so I'm in favor of, I mean, for $4,300, I think it's really a good deal for a 48-inch. So there's my comments.
I just have a question, but Pam, go ahead first. You.
Oh, I was just gonna say the issues you expressed, actually, we expressed at the Park and Rec Committee, like, do we really need this? How often does it get used? One of the things is that the Women's Center has like a forever lease to the Women's Club, is that who it is? And they actually use it. And so to accommodate their needs more specifically too, that's what kind of made us go that way. We struggled over it too, but ended up with this decision. And again, kind of what Director Logan is saying too, is that if in the future it gets rented out more, this is the better oven for that space.
Okay.
And kind of along the similar lines, I'm just wondering, since it's technically a borrowed building, are we under uncertain obligation? Are there certain requirements with that?
No, the lease agreement is relatively short and not specific about repairs or replacements of like kind. It's just not addressed in there, so.
But that's the group that primarily uses.
Yes, it is a group
I
that
think we
does
have a
use,
good
that does use it, and I think if we were to, if the proposal was to replace it with something smaller, I would have wanted to reach out to them just to make sure it wasn't gonna impact them or create another problem. But, we're trying to replace it with the like, what's recommended is a like size. It may not be it's not maybe as high end, still looks nice, still bakes and heats, but apparently you can get, kitchen appliances that can do a whole lot of things. And this one does not. It bakes and heats.
You can't cook from home with it?
Have an app. You can use it on your phone.
Any public comment on the item? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question. It seems to me, I remember way back when, that if you're gonna rent it out to somebody and they wanna have a function, it's gotta pass certain health department requirements, and I think one of the requirements is you have a commercial oven.
Good point.
So I'm not sure that we could put a smaller oven in there and without the health department, whoever does that kind of stuff comes in, so. I'm also in favor of the motions.
So public comment? Yeah, yes,
Do I need
please,
to
if you,
stand?
yes, just state your name, please.
Hi there, my name is Vicki Miller and I'm the chair for the North County Women's Connection. We're one of the groups that rent the facility out on a monthly basis. We actually sign up for the year. We traditionally meet the second Friday of every month unless certain conditions, and Fridays fall on a certain irregular pattern. But we've been there for several years. We love the facility, but it's been a great inconvenience on us not being able to have that oven and to serve hot meals. We're a group of older women, they get together, they kabish. Maybe that was right the first time. Pardon me. But we charge $15 for them to come. A lot of them are on limited incomes. Because we haven't had the stove, and we've been told, the story that you were told too, we're ordering parts, it's on hold, that took about a year and nothing happened, no movement there. So we finally, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was we just simplified our menu to the women, which was kind of a shame because they really look forward to this monthly meeting. A lot of women, this is their only outing. So anyway, we were preparing the lunch, and we have a catering company that comes in and helps us prepare food. We had the food in there. It was, I don't even know, it was something cold, but we were gonna serve hot beans with this cold item. And so it was on a Friday. It was, we were using their microwave, the small microwave, to heat the beans. And then all of a sudden the microwave broke. And so we have 60 women who are ready to eat in 20 minutes and we have cold beans. And the office was closed. It was a holiday, some Friday, which was a holiday. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? We got all these waiting. So I ran to the fire department and I said, would you guys mind, you know, we're right over here. Would you heat our beans? And they kind of looked a little stymied, but they agreed to do it. And so, and bless them for doing that. But by the time, you know, we transported and got back, not only were we late, but the beans were already cold. It was such an inconvenience. And so then we really had to seriously start looking at other options because it no longer really fit our need. And so we looked and long story short, in the month of March and now for the month of April, we're meeting somewhere else. But our numbers are growing by the grace of God. And so the place that we're meeting at now really can't accommodate larger numbers. So we really desire to go back to the community center, plus it's centrally located because we have women from all areas that come and join us. That said, you know, I mean, I'm here to plead. Also, another lady, the treasurer for us, her name is Sherry Dunk. She's with the Women's Center. And that, as you know, is the group that donated the building. And she was gonna come here and plead on behalf of her organization too, how inconvenienced they've been. But she realized at the last minute she had to watch her grandson, and the grandson wins every time, so she's not here. But I just, you know, and when you're talking about a 30-inch residential, 48, we could care what size it is, you know? I mean, a toaster oven would be an improvement from what we had, but it's not sufficient for our need. So just as someone who's affected directly by it, and we see the women, you know, and how important it is to us and how vital this place has been, and also going the year without having it fixed and without really any information about it, you know, I mean, being posted on and everything else. It wasn't a warm fuzzy for us, making us feel like we were really welcomed in the city of Templeton. But I know we are, but you understand the perception too. And who knows, maybe someone was saying, well, there's 2 groups that rent it out on a monthly basis. You might have a lot more than 2 groups if you had an oven to help meet their need. And just as I was doing the math here, somebody had mentioned $4,300 for a stove. Well, we would pay $135 a month to be there. So in a mere 32 months, we could have that stove paid for you. You know what I mean? We would welcome it. We want to come back. We really do. We want to come back. We need to come back because you guys have space to accommodate it. What you don't have is the heat, and that's really what we need. So maybe you take that into consideration.
Well, thank you. It's good to hear that you guys are, I mean, you know, you want to come back. So
We want to come, we didn't
That's
want
nice.
to leave, you know?
good. Well, that's
But
good to hear.
after that bean fiasco, it was kind of,
Well, thank you.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other public comments? No? Okay, we'll just bring it back to board. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, since I pulled it, I'll make a motion then to go ahead and approve the budget amendment for the community center range for the amount of $4,300. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Cool. Okay, roll call please.
Directors Bardonish,
Aye.
Pearson,
Aye.
Jardini,
Yes.
Logan,
Aye.
and Peterson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming. Oh,
Can I just ask one more question? Can we expect what sort of time frame you might have this?
couple of years.
32 months. We hope to be back to meet the second Friday in May. Do you think that that might be a possibility, having it
Their
intact?
delivery is, I can order it tomorrow and get it by like the weekend. Their
Okay.
delivery is-
So
Yeah, we can make sure that Carrier Maya notifies you when it's back up and running.
So it sounds like it's gonna happen within the next month or so.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're
The
welcome.
ladies, thank you too.
Oh,
Thank you for using
coming.
our facility.
So the next item is this is a public hearing, is for resolution number 03-2024. It's update to master fee schedule. This is Chief.
Yes.
All right, well, welcome.
Thank you and good evening. So as mentioned, the presentation tonight is for the master fee schedule for the state mandated fire inspections. As the board knows, I've given you a brief explanation before on this. This is a result from Senate bill that came out of the Oakland Ghost Ship fire that requires fire departments to do local inspections of hotels, schools, residential care facilities and such. The health and safety code, and then report back to the board annually on those inspections. The health and safety codes allows us to recover those fees for those inspections. And that's what's being presented tonight in our impact fee study or our fee schedule. The fiscal impact would be recovering just those fees. And there is a second aspect on there I think the general manager will talk about with solid waste, but the fee was republished twice to meet the posting requirements. And as mentioned on here, staff recommendation is that the board of directors open a public hearing and accept any and all comments and objections to the amendment of the master fee schedule, following the public hearing, the board should by motion approve or ask to approve resolution 0324 to update the master fee schedule for those state mandated inspections. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief?
So I have a question, Renee. So the fees that you're proposing, are your actual cost?
This is, yes,
And
correct.
it's really just a recovery of what your costs are to implement this, regulatory requirement, correct?
Exactly. So, and as in the report that I've given the board, the staff report, you can see the line items, particularly what we used was based off the Office of Emergency Services rates for a fire engine per hour. And then our hourly rates for captains, engineers, firefighters, flat admin rate to total that full amount. And that is just recovering fees. There's nothing on top of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as the chief mentioned, this item did have a notice of public hearing. If you don't have any further questions or at the end of your questions, we recommend you open the public hearing, accept testimony before considering the resolution. I did want to just note that the resolution adopts the master fee schedule and incorporates these fees. But when you look at the attachment of the resolution, all the fees that have been adopted previously are included in the master fee schedule. There's one other change, and that is the refuse rates. The refuse rates, you might recall in the summer of 2022, we held a Prop 218 public hearing for refuse rates. And at that time, the board approved rates, which included annual CPI adjustments to take effect each April. And so this master fee schedule, if approved, would update. It doesn't, the rates are already in effect. The rates that are shown in here took effect yesterday. Because they were pre-approved essentially back in July of 2022, June of 2022, for each, including these CPI adjustments each April through 2027. But we've updated them in here just so that our records match the current adopted or approved fees. The board wouldn't be taking any further action to adjust those fees. It's already been enacted.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, since there are no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and open this, since it's a public hearing to the public. Any comments on this item? No? Nothing there, great, thank you. So we'll close the public hearing. All right, if there are no other comments, then I'll entertain them. This for the master fee schedule. Is there a
I'll make a
motion?
motion that the board accept the master fee schedule and resolution number 03-2024 to update the master fee schedule.
Second, all right, Director Peterson seconds it, all right, roll call please.
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Gardini,
Yes.
Pearson,
Aye.
and Fardonish.
Aye. All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, thanks for presenting, appreciate it. All right, general managers report.
Few items. One, as you've likely heard, Richard Birch, who's a Templeton resident, lives just across the street and for about 11 years now, a chaplain for Templeton Fire, passed away a couple weeks ago. So his, unexpectedly, and his service is going to be this Saturday at 1 p.m. at the North Side Church of Christ in Atascadero. We do expect to have some fire presence at that service. Janice, his wife, she's been a longtime member of the Templeton Recreation Foundation, so some of you may know through that. And then I was asked to provide kind of an update on some items each quarter, and I just wanted to just go through those quickly for you tonight. One of them being the Nacimiento Recharge Recovery Project, progress on that. As you know, or as you've been briefed before, the county is engaged WSC to do some analysis on either repairing or relocating the turnout from the Nacimiento line to our current site. The initial draft, or the first draft of analysis, was due at the end of March, but it slipped a couple weeks. We now expect to see it for the first time at the end of next week. So got an update on that just a couple of days ago.
Will that be provided to us, or is that?
I don't know if that, probably not the initial draft, but the final report certainly will. But we're hoping to gain some insight as to what the analysis shows. So we're anxiously awaiting it. The urban water management plan, you may recall you adopted that in December. It was submitted to the state. The state requested that we add a link on the state's website to the Atascadero Basin GSP, which is also just been in a draft, so it's not draft, but it's in a submitted but not yet reviewed format by the state. So we added that link to our state submittal. And then just this past month, the state sent verification of acceptance of the report. There's nothing further that needs to be done, and we've satisfied the urban water management plan requirement. Although there'll be another one to do just next year.
Congratulations, that's a big deal.
Water and wastewater master plans. We have some background elements that are underway, including some surveying of the collection system where we have some data missing. It was important to have that surveying complete so we could do some modeling of the collection system as a part of that master plan. And so the RFPs for the actual plans themselves will become a top priority for our district engineer as soon as we have that person on board. And as you know, we have a candidate who's accepted the position, and we're going through the pre-employment requirements now. Hoping that within a week or so we'll have that resolved and tentatively have a start date in early May. So that's very optimistic. Water and wastewater rates. Really, the master plans are going to be important to consider because they will identify projects in terms of which projects are necessary that are rate supported. And that would mean that's important for us to incorporate it into any future rate calculations. Everest Park improvement plans. You get an update on that every month through Bill Johnson's report. We've got that now submitted to the county. The county, as you might recall, the county requested a resolution authorizing assigning applicants, which you approved. We have since provided, but we've not heard any comments yet back from the county. This is our second submission, so the comments coming back need to be way shorter than we had initially. Hopefully there's none, but I don't want to be unrealistic. And then I've worked with a couple of different solar providers to examine options for solar generation of the wastewater treatment plant. We actually were engaged with Third Pillar Solar and also with ENGIE, their major solar or energy solutions provider. Third Pillar Solar was looking at something that you might have heard of called community solar. But there were some recent PUC rulings that have kind of made community solar maybe not feasible, not just for our site, but in general. And then, of course, you're probably all aware that last year the PUC implemented what's known as net energy metering 3.0, and that's really taken solar. I mean, solar industries in California needs a lifeline. The payback on what maybe many of us had done over the prior years is really suffering because the rates that we get back under net energy metering 3 from PG&E are like a fifth of what they were when you produce power that you don't use. So so rooftop solar right now is really in question. We're working with NG to see if it's a way of merging all the district's accounts into one and putting up solar that would create what PUC calls the RES BCT program, where you can offset generation for as many as 50 accounts under the same ownership. But NG won't take on a project this small. We are in the municipal world a tiny user, even though we pay big bills. We're small and don't, even though the project might have might meet feasibility requirements, they just don't do projects that are that small in nature. Our total generation would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 850 kilowatt hours, or just under a gigawatt, I guess. Yeah, just under a megawatt of power generation for all the district sites. So I'm looking to see if there's another smaller provider that would be willing to engage, because the way these solar companies work is they'll design, it's a design build concept. They'll come in and put some risk into the project to determine if it has good feasibility, and Angie just won't for something this small. So
How
anyway,
did you choose the ones that you interviewed?
Angie I've worked with before, and I've actually engaged them maybe 7 or 8 years ago here. And then Third Pillar Solar reached out to us about the wastewater facility, but they've since expressed no more interest because of this community solar program no longer being very viable.
The thing is that the 3.0 doesn't give you the payback that you used to get, like we have an old system, but it's still definitely worth doing it because you store your electricity to your battery.
If you have a battery storage system.
And then you get it back that way. And it's not mandated, but they highly recommend putting the batteries in.
Yeah, I don't think we can get a payback without, I mean, a decent rate of return without battery.
Yeah, you gotta get
And
that.
so it's still a viable option for cost reduction. We just don't get the payback that we would have gotten in older, like we have an older solar system, so we get a high payback on that. The newer one we're installing won't give us a high payback.
So, as we mentioned, I think we need to look at batteries.
Mhm.
That's what I've heard. Okay. All right. Any other?
No, those are the items I have.
Okay, any questions for the general manager?
I have a question on is this where we could discuss the loss of income from Templeton Twin Cities Hospital?
It's not on the agenda. If you have a really simple question that I can answer, I can answer it. If you want to discuss it in detail, we should add it to a future agenda, but we were expecting to bring it before the budget committee and obviously before you during the budget workshop. I did send out our estimation of what those losses would be to all of you, and for the public, it's just under it's about $50,000 a year in reduced property taxes collected district-wide. If Adventist Health is successful if they apply, which they have told me they will, for the property tax exemption. And again, that relates to Tenant Healthcare selling the hospital to Adventist Health, who's a nonprofit.
So they applied to the county?
They have not yet, well, as of Friday, they have not yet applied, but I believe the process is to apply to the county.
And do you think is worth putting it on the agenda in terms of like maybe writing a letter?
I don't think we,
Oh, that's not something.
It's
we
not,
do.
yeah.
I think they're gonna qualify.
Oh,
All their other hospitals,
Oh, I see, okay, so we can,
it's not like a discretionary.
okay.
I just would like to make a comment that a loss of just $50,000 is not just $50,000 to me. And I think that the budget committee should look at ways, and when we bring it for the budget, ways of recouping that tax dollar other places through either brainstorming on other things we can do, because, you know, it's a loss of $50,000 to our fire department and our park and works department. And we just moved a whole bunch of money to fire to keep them viable. And so, I don't consider it just $50,000, so I'm hoping that the loss is taken seriously and we look at some alternatives, and brainstorming ideas to help replace that loss.
Any public comment on the general manager's report? Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you very much, appreciate it. Let's move on to the committee reports. RAC from March 6th, 2024. Any comments on that? Questions, public? No, okay. Parks, Recreation and Refuse Committee, that one. Any comments on that? The item was the range, so. We have the GSA Executive Committee, so that one was on March 20th. We have the agenda on there. And with the couple items that were discussed, one was the, I think we mentioned that the annual report was sent to the state a while back. We were waiting response from the state. Actually, we were hoping we get something, you know, last month or so. But the state responded in a letter stating that they have our report, they have our plan. They are gonna just hold on to it for now. They're going to concentrate on other basins, and because we consider it low priority, they thanked us for doing it. So we're just gonna hold on. I don't think there was really a time frame as when they're gonna.
There was no no
Yeah.
date certain. I think the
Yeah.
letter came to us because the way the legislation is written is that we submitted the GSP by the end of January in 2022, and the state had 2 years to review it. And they sent a comment back 2 years to the day later saying it's gonna take them more time because we're a very low priority, and yeah, so we don't know when they're gonna.
And then also during that meeting, we approved our annual report that we're supposed to send out for the basin, so that one was done. Basin is still doing well. It was because of the rain that we had, it really did a great job recharging. That's one thing nice about the Atascadero Basin. It just recharges really quick with any kind of rain that we get. And they showed us the graphs and everything is doing well. So we're in good shape there. And then TAG, we had a meeting on March 21st, and there's a report there. Any comments on that?
Yeah, so let me just also, John Donahue,
Yeah.
who was a TAG member for some time, and for the past 17 years has been Abe Lincoln walking in the Templeton Parade. He actually passed away the day before this TAG meeting. So he had been dealing with some medical issues for some time. So that's a loss to TAG and to the community, and having someone participate in the Templeton Parade for so long. I don't have any information on services. There was something that was supposed to be posted, but I have yet to see that.
No. Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Can I just, so am I understanding, so TAG's 5 positions are filled, but their 2 alternate seats are open?
Yeah, so they had a couple of people, one individual moved cross country. So what ended up happening is they had seated all of the delegates, and they had 2 alternates. Well, because 2 people resigned from the board, the 2 alternates filled in, so now they need the alternates. So that's what they're trying to recruit for, is those alternates.
Thank you. All right, so no questions, no public comments on the committee report. Okay, so we'll move on to the activity update reports. Finance. Any questions on finance? Fire and emergency services, questions?
Oh, I do.
Yes.
When there was in your report, it says 2 fires. Can you in the future put down where those fires are, if they're structure fires, or car fires, or are they at Tascadero, or Paso, or Templeton, or the mutual aid? Just sometimes I get asked questions like, oh, there's 2 fires and listed, and where were they? I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah.
You don't see
Yeah.
them. It would be appreciated.
I think it breaks out the type of fire, but not the location. So structure, vegetation,
I
other.
think so too, but when I looked, I think it just says. Right,
Just 2 structure fires.
oh, does it, okay. Yeah, it's the structure part, but yeah, that would be just helpful for community.
So
Oh,
you're asking just if there's, so this would have been adequate then?
Well, no, because are the structure fires in Templeton, Paso
Oh,
County,
location, okay,
you
right.
know, so that people know, because then
Yeah,
they
okay.
go, where was there a fire? in Templeton?
Okay, so you want the specific location?
Well, I don't think you can give us out the address, right?
No,
Right.
the address wouldn't be appropriate, but I can give the community.
The community.
Okay.
If it was just county, Templeton, Paso, Tascadero, it would be good. Okay, great, thanks.
Great, thank you. Parks, Recreation and Solid Waste, activity, any questions on that?
I just had a clarification on the beer run, just the signups have not yet commenced, but they're active and running, so if you're all dying to sign up for the 5K, you can do that now and active.
Thank you. One question I do have, so I know they talked about the Living the Dream volunteer
Mhm.
night. So it seems like that's kind of has been approved, I mean, I guess is kind of going through the TRF.
Yes.
My question is that, shouldn't we have like discussed that because it's a budget item? Shouldn't we at least bring it to us
Well,
for
this-
discussion?
We can. It didn't happen during the current fiscal year. When we brought you a budget amendment in the mid-year budget amendment, we removed the revenue that we would have expected to receive this year.
Okay,
So this item is really next fiscal year.
okay, alright.
But we're trying to make a guesstimate about what kind of revenue it might generate and, I think there's some, kind of an understanding between the rec department and TRF. But, this is the first time this event has happened in this way, so. After we have an initial year like this, we'd have maybe a better sense from all parties about what the expectations might be going forward. In terms of, is it something that TRF is gonna wanna continue to do, or, how successful can it be?
Okay.
We've had it really, it's been a lot of work, but it's been very financially viable. But it still had a lot of volatility, like we've made as much as like $80,000 and as little as like $35,000, so there's been a lot of volatility. To the success of the fundraiser, all of them have been successful, each of those prior years.
Alright, so, and then so just to, I guess, make it official, what is the arrangement that we have? Is it,
There's not a written arrangement.
like, there's no financial?
No,
Like-
because there's a kind of informal that the TRF will help support the rec department reach a certain threshold. And then anything after that will be discussed.
So what is that threshold?
That still needs to be confirmed, but it's about 35 to 40,000,
Okay,
which is kind of in the average, if you average the.
alright,
I had a question.
But, sorry, but also keep in mind though too, there was some community feedback that they were a little frustrated in that fundraiser was being presented as these are supposed to support extras for the park and rec, not be absorbed in the budget. And so there was some community frustration expressed that this was a little bit misleading in how we were using those funds. And so that's why we kind of reorganized a little bit so that we can actually be a little bit more independent, but also a little bit more what word am I looking for? Transparent, thank you. About exactly what these funds are being used for, so that they can be tied to things like a park equipment or gopher treatments for the park or things like that. It needs to be tied more to viable items as opposed to just being thrown in the budget. That was the feedback that we received from the community, and so that was one of the reasons why we, TRF kind of stepped in and said, now we can present it that it's being used for scholarships, it's being used for equipment, it's being used for whatever, as opposed to just thrown into the budget, not being able to be.
But then people have a tangible idea of what.
And they're more motivated to donate to hard and very
Right.
identifiable things as opposed to kind of this
Right.
aloof, so that's kind of the background of why we ended up moving into this direction. And plus TRF had a lot more flexibility with using the event coordinator. We are undertaking that expense. We're undertaking the new venue expense or two, you know, so it opened the door to make this a little bit a bigger event because we had a little bit more flexibility in regards to funding.
I have a question back to the fire department.
Okay.
Just, we never got an answer, at least I don't remember, on the pancake money that's raised, where that gets allocated to.
So yeah, that goes to the association. It's not a fire department account.
Right.
And I've asked the union to give us at their request, they don't have to give us a breakdown of where they're spending that money. And they said, yeah, they'd put something together. And so I haven't pressured them on it, but they said they would put something together. And I'll remind them again, maybe have something for the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be nice. Thank you.
So I know, over this last couple months, they have donated to the high school, and the athletics, so boosters. They get signage that they put on the baseball field and the football field. They've donated to the rec department for 2 youth teams, I believe. So T-ball and something else, I think is what they donated to sponsor. And there was something else, but I'll get a breakdown.
So just some feedback, they might want to create some storyboards because people are in line and it would help, you know, the public understand where those funds are going. And it may increase their contributions by, you know, having something, and especially if Director Giardini, you know, is questioning where does the funds go and does it come back into the community? It would probably help awareness.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
just some feedback that you might want to share with them.
Yeah, and I know for 20 years that I was involved in that aspect with the Firefighters Association. That was our only fundraiser for a good majority of the time, and we were only generating $2,000 to $3,000 annually. And almost all of it, except for the money we would save to buy the materials for the next year, would go back into sports teams, and that's why you saw all those, or you used to be able to see all those plaques above on the fire department wall, was all those sports team sponsors by Templeton firefighters.
Great, thank you. All right, okay, and then utilities. Any questions on utilities report? Okay, public, all right. So that's the activity update reports. Next is directors' reports and or comments. Do any directors have reports or comments that they want to share with us?
Just, I don't know how other committees are doing it, but we're trying to set up a facilities committee meeting and it's taking forever. So we were kind of just talking, we were involved in too, about, and I don't know if fire or the other finance and stuff, you know, we get less Carrie and her, you know, we have to sign up and go through all that. But I was thinking at the next, like, facilities meeting saying, can we pick a date every other month or every month? And then if everybody knows to hold that date, and then if we don't need that meeting, cancel it. And that might help.
Make it a standing
Make it
meeting.
Standing meeting for all the committee. It was just a thought I had. And I thought I'd share that because I don't know if I know in Park And Rex, we had the same thing too. It took forever to get us to get a meeting together. So maybe if you tried to hold those dates, that might help facilitate getting our meetings going, quicker or faster.
Hey, Doodle.
Well, I think it's kind of trying to corral Pat's, trying to schedule those meetings. Because it's not only just looking at staff, but it's looking at, people on the committee and we also have some members of the public serving on those committees as well. Yeah, I just find that when the Google Calendar comes in, it's like, I look at my calendar and say, oh, I can attend this one, I can't this one. And I'm looking because I can see, how many people have already weighed in that they can attend. It just takes some time, me going back and forth between my personal calendar and that.
But if you had it on your personal calendar that 2 months
As a
out,
standing meeting.
as a standing meeting, then you might not schedule something that day. We might be able to facilitate these meetings a little bit more efficiently.
Lord help us if we had an emergency, we had to get one of those meetings. But we finally got a finance or utilities
Facilities.
in May.
In May,
We got a meeting, finally. They've been trying since January.
oh, you're on the board with me?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, we had a meeting.
Yeah, if you were meeting, you would have known that.
Had a meeting.
I'd like to, I would ask for some input from staff. I mean, would that make it easier for you folks?
Yeah, we've talked internally about what the options are, and I think maybe when you gave us some direction late last year to try to, to help us along, and I think as we go through this year, if you want to, I think we do have an option of making those standing and more fixed, but that's not what we told the public when we asked them to, we didn't tell them these are the dates of these meetings when they applied, and I'm not sure it would, we get new, if we get new additional people to want to serve on them if that were the case, but I think it is an option. The committees don't meet, I mean, there's, I think we were kind of targeting maybe 4 meetings a year kind of thing, so maybe once a quarter-ish.
We're into May, it's gonna be
sorry.
hard to fit 4 in.
Could we maybe limit the discussion since this is in a comment and not on agenda item? So maybe if it's something that we want to have a bigger discussion on, we put it on the agenda.
Thank
Put it
you.
around that.
Okay, all right, so that's the end of it. Tentative agenda items, anything significant that you see?
No, well, I would just caution you that this Dish Network cell site is that's placeholder, but that is not
Okay,
a certainty by any means. Like, these folks go silent for quite a bit of time.
okay, all right, so we'll just do that. Okay, well, thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Yep.